Hello YouTubers, this is MaxNation1980 here, and I'm continuing with my animation rambles, and I want to go back to talking about Disney animation because DreamWorks has kind of been laying low for a little while. Home has been doing well. It opened well, and hopefully its overseas total will help the film break even. I'm not going to get into that because that requires a whole nother ramble. Other than this one, I just want to move right into the Disney animation side of things, and I'm going to go back to covering Pixar because a lot has happened between spring 2014 and now, and I figured, hey, talk about it a bit. As we all know, Disney Animation's next film won't be coming out this year, but will be coming out next spring. It's titled Zootopia. It's being directed by Byron Howard, who's the director of Tangled, and he was one of the directors of Tangled. He directed Tangled with Nathan Greeno, and he directed Bolt alongside Chris Williams. And of course, Rich Moore is the director of Wreck-It Ralph, and he's a Simpsons alumnus, so that's a great combo right there. And of course, there's also the obligatory co-director, just in case they need somebody to handle the ship from the second deck, and that would happen to be Jared Stern, or is it Jared Bush? Darn, I forget his name. It's the guy who created Pen Zero Part-Time Hero, and I've heard that that show is good. And I wouldn't be surprised because Disney television animation, in my opinion, has been making some pretty good stuff lately. I mean, even though Phineas and Ferb is ending, Phineas and Ferb has been pretty good. From what I saw of it, I really liked. Gravity Falls was really good from what I've seen of it. I saw most of the first season and some of the second season. Really good show. And I've also seen, the Paul Rudish Mickey Mouse. I think Disney TV animation has got it all together right now. And, that's very refreshing because, for a little while I thought that they were kind of going through a little lull of sorts. Like, I wasn't really too big on the stuff they were putting out in maybe the early to mid 2000s. I think it's like sometime after Kim Possible. And before Phineas and Ferb, there was like a little slump there in quality, but I think they're back in full force, and I think they know what they're doing. So Zootopia has a good crew behind it. Also, this I think it's Jared Bush. Jared Bush will be writing the script for the film too. I'm sure there's probably another writer attached, and they're not telling us about the writer yet, because I think this was the case with Big Hero 6 and a couple of Pixar's films. Some of the Pixar films have had this too, like they'll reveal one writer, but then it turns out there's more writers on the project, like Inside Out. They revealed some writers that were attached to it that we had never heard of in the past. Originally, we thought that Michael Arndt was going to be the only person writing the script, but it turns out there's like another person, a woman, I think. And I think there's somebody else working on it too, but I bet that will be the case with Zootopia. But who knows? I'm very happy that they added Rich Moore to the film because originally it seemed like it was going to be directed by Byron Howard and Nathan Greeno, but then Nathan Greeno left the project to do his own project at Disney, which is going to be Giants in the future, but I'm hearing rumors that Giants is going to be directed by Byron Howard as well, so it's going to be like Tangled where the two collaborate. And I wouldn't rule that out, but see, Giants doesn't have a release date, and Disney has been very hush-hush on it. In fact, they never really officially announced it, although John Lasseter supposedly let it slip in South Korea or something when Big Hero 6 was coming out, or the Tokyo International Film Festival. I forget exactly where it was, but they did. I heard that either Lasseter or somebody let it slip that Giants was coming, and it was going to be released in 2018. It was going to be one of the two 2018 releases, but that's a little... that's ahead of Zootopia, so we're going to talk about Zootopia. And right now, I'm very happy that Rich Moore is directing because out of the revival era features, I think Wreck-It Ralph is the best one, followed very, very, very closely by The Princess and the Frog. Rich Moore directed Wreck-It Ralph, and he did the story for it, and, he kind of brought that Simpsons-esque sort of Simpsons-like sensibility to Wreck-It Ralph's script and its overall tone. And Futurama, too. And coincidentally, Futurama had, coincidentally, an episode about video games sort of invading our planet. And it seems like Pixels kind of cribbed its plot from that, the upcoming Pixels. And it's really cool that Futurama did it, and now Rich Moore, who directed and wrote a lot of Futurama episodes, is doing, he did a movie about what classic 80s video game characters and 90s and even nowadays, like what do characters in arcade games do when the arcade closes. So it was really cool to see him do that. And again, I absolutely loved Wreck-It Ralph. I just thought the script was near perfect, and it was just really creative. it's a real gem, I think, and it was rightfully a critical and commercial success. So yeah, him being on board Zootopia, that's enough to, excite me, even if I didn't know what the plot synopsis was. But I've talked about the plot before in great detail. I absolutely love the premise. Zootopia, it seemingly takes place in an alternate version of Earth, where there's this city, and this alternate version of Earth is basically just populated by animals that act and walk and talk like humans. It's basically Robin Hood or something like DreamWorks Kung Fu Panda. It's a universe like that, but taken pretty literally, because with something like Kung Fu Panda over at DreamWorks, they were basically, and same thing with Robin Hood, they were basically our world, but just with animals, and it was just literally our world, same history and everything, but with animals taking the roles of humans. But with Zootopia, it seems like it has an alternate history going, and that, nothing that happened in real life ever happened in that world. And Zootopia, from the looks of it, and Zootopia, it's called Zootopia because the film takes place in a city called Zootopia. And Zootopia has been described in the plot synopsis as a melting pot of different animals, because elsewhere in the world, and this is what makes me think it's going to basically be an alternate version of Earth rather than a separate planet altogether. They talk about like tundras and deserts, and it's all animals that are, real animals. They're not like made up ones. And Zootopia is a city where animals from all different habitats live. Animals from the desert, animals from the savanna, the jungle, the tundra, the mountains. And they said that they said that there's going to be like themes of prejudice in the movie, and carnivorous animals not really getting along with herbivore animals, and this whole idea of a city like a melting pot. You can make for some pretty good you can like tell a pretty good message with that, and I like that they're going that route. And the film is about a rabbit cop named Lieutenant Judy Hopps, and she will be voiced by Jennifer Goodwin, and she reluctantly finds herself teaming up with Nick Wilde, who is a fox, who will be voiced by Jason Bateman. And since Nick Wilde is a carnivore, the fox goes after the rabbit, they wouldn't get along. So it's another, sort of mismatched buddy type picture. Forgive me, I have like, allergies have hit me hard, so my voice won't be too good in this. But with Zootopia, basically, it's kind of an awkward situation where, prey and predator live together, carnivores and herbivores live together, and that's going to be one of the big themes in the movie. And the new synopsis says that Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps have to crack a missing animal case. So, and this is kind of different from the earlier sort of plot synopses. Forgive me. I'm not, a grammar major. The earlier ones said that they were going to be caught in the middle of a massive conspiracy, and I bet they've kept that because the report at the Cannes Film Festival implied that they did keep a lot of stuff from that earlier synopsis that was shown at the D23 in 2013, the D23 Expo. So, and I was a little concerned at first because I was afraid that they kind of got rid of all those ideas or scrapped some and put some new ones in. Like they talked about Lieutenant Judy Hopps being more optimistic and such, when in the earlier synopsis she was sort of described as kind of like cocky and arrogant, and I think cocky and arrogant is a little more interesting. And from the report I saw at Cannes, from all the press and everything, all the trade papers, it seemed like they didn't scrap too many ideas and that they're going to keep a lot of the ideas that were in that earlier synopsis. I just love the concept. I love the idea of a city, and if you've seen the concept art, I mean, it's going to be in the video anyways. The concept art is lovely, and to see this city fully rendered and fully realized, this movie is going to be absolute eye candy. And this is the kind of movie, in my opinion, that Disney Animation should be making. This is, to me, a premise that totally takes advantage of animation as a medium. Now, I'm not trying to put down movies like Tangled or Frozen, but, Tangled and Frozen are fairy tales with some fantastical elements. Like with Tangled, you have the whole thing with the sun, the healing flower, you have Maximus and Pascal being anthropomorphic to an extent. And with Frozen, you have a talking snowman, you have a talking snowman, and you have a princess who has ice powers, and it's, pretty normal stuff with some fantastical stuff thrown in. This is, like, completely fantastical. It's a world inhabited only by animals, and there's a whole city, and Zootopia is probably, like, that planet's equivalent, like that alternate Earth's equivalent of New York. And they really like play with the idea of anthropomorphic animals, and they said that these anthropomorphic animals will move and act differently from the ones we're used to. So I think we're going to be in for a lot of surprises. And some of the stuff that I read in the con reports, like regarding some of the jokes, like sloths running a DMV, like that's comedy gold right there. I think that's pretty funny. And there was also this whole other thing, because like humans, the animals wear clothes, and it's like Robin Hood where they wear clothes, and they kind of they're just like us. But they said that they're going to have a scene where they go into like a building where animals who are like nudists, and they kind of jokingly said this will be like the first nude scene in a Disney movie or a Disney animated film. So yes, Zootopia sounds like it'll be very funny. It sounds like it'll have a very, very cool plot. It sounds like it'll be very creative. It sounds like it'll have a great script. And just again, it's just going to be it's just going to be real eye candy, because again, this is really a story that's really going to take advantage of animation. This, to me, is the next Wreck-It Ralph in that regard. Because, Wreck-It Ralph took us to video game worlds, and it was very fantastical. And you were dealing with characters that were, very outlandish. And, Frozen and Tangled and even Big Hero 6 are a little more normal. I mean, Big Hero 6 has robots and advanced technology and such, but Zootopia, I think, is really like fantastical, and that's what I really like about it. It's very creative, and I mean, the animals, anthropomorphic animals acting like humans has been done before, and I like that this movie is going to subvert some of those tropes. I mean, it looks like it's going to subvert some of those tropes, but it also looks like it's going to take it literally, and at the same time try to develop a serious but fun, imaginative world around this whole premise. Because when I watch movies like Robin Hood and Kung Fu Panda, my imagination kind of wanders. It kind of wanders. And I think, how else, would they have done this? Like, how did this world come to be? Like, how... Yeah, basically, I just love the premise of Zootopia. The premise alone was what sold me. And I know that when I first heard the title, I assumed that it was either going to be, like, some kind of a zoo or a park, like a sort of nature exhibit for animals. That's pretty unimaginative there. I would have never guessed that Zootopia was going to take place on on a planet that was just anthropomorphic animals acting like humans with, no humans, Robin Hood, Kung Fu Panda, stuff like that. So they had me at the premise. When I found out what the premise was, I was like, okay, you had me at that. Shut up and take my money. So they had me at that, and I'm very happy that Byron Howard and Rich Moore are directing the film together, two extremely talented people, and the fact that Walt Disney Animation Studios is really firing on all cylinders, and I think they have been since Meet the Robinsons. So, yeah, bring it on, Disney.